Welcome back, sports fans. In this segment, I'm going to discuss Blake Griffin's buyout and the trade of Delon Wright. Pistons ended up having to buy out Blake Griffin's contract, or they felt like they had to buy Blake Griffin's contract out. And they paid him, I believe, somewhere in the range of $34 million to do so. What troubled me about it was the timing of it. I mean, Blake Griffin had not played for a while. I thought they shelved him too soon, and then I thought they didn't take long enough or as much time to try to trade him as they otherwise might have. And I think that started what seemingly may become a trend in the NBA, because if you notice or otherwise have heard, the Cavaliers had to do the same thing with Andre Drummond. The Spurs had to do that with LaMarcus Aldridge. It just seems like to me that teams are going to be resistant to trade a player when they can force the team that's looking to relieve themselves of cap money to make them have to buy him out, and then they don't have to give up anything for him, and then they can pay him a reduced salary on top of that, which to me seems a little like collusion of sorts, but no, actually not of sorts. It does seem like collusion to me, actually, now that I think about it. And Blake Griffin's buyout started the trend, I would say. Now, it is possible that no teams were going to pay Blake Griffin that kind of money, and he was immensely overpaid. I don't disagree with that one bit. It just seems like to me, though, that started a trend this year. And also, it kept the Pistons from getting anything for him, which, if you've heard my previous shows, I felt like if they had traded him last season, they would have been able to get at least a couple of second-round selections for him. The other thing that interests me was the Pistons trading Delon Wright. And I'm surprised by this trade this year for a couple of reasons. One is Delon Wright had a friendly contract, and the Pistons could have waited until next year to trade him. Also, he played for Dwayne Casey when he was the head coach of the Raptors. On top of that, he had played well enough that his role was pretty much defined with the Pistons. So based on that, I really didn't understand why they did it. Except for the fact that the Pistons ended up getting Corey Joseph, the Kings 2021 second round selection that they'd gotten from the Lakers, which would be, I believe, their lowest second round selection this year, if I'm right, and would stand to reason, and then a 2024 second round selection, which would be the Kings, just to be clear on that. And that may have been too good an offer for Troy Weaver to pass up. However, I think I would have resisted the urge. And it's not that Corey Joseph hasn't been okay so far. He is a year younger than Delon Wright, and because they did it this year, they got an extra second-round selection, I believe. But in my mind, I'm like, is it really worth it? And perhaps so far it is. I don't think the Pistons have won any more games than they would have had they had Delon Wright. But it still remains to be seen to me whether Corey Joseph's going to work out and be able to stay with the Pistons or not. At the time, it just struck me as being very interesting, but the more things have played out, the more I would say it makes sense, since the Pistons are getting a player that's a year younger, plus they're getting an extra second-round selection in a few years. In the next segment, I'm going to discuss a couple of moves the Lions had made that I just found out about prior to the recording of this show, and I'm going to have a few other things about the draft, including a couple of trades that I wasn't able to report at the time that they occurred, one being not quite a week ago. Stay tuned to Sports with Ed on Ed's Sports Channel.